Welcome to this lesson on the theatre of the absurd. The theatre of the absurd was coined by Martin Esslin in his 1962 work with the title Theatre of the Absurd. It refers to the work of a loosely associated group of dramatists who first emerged during and after the Second World War. It's as a reaction to the World War II. The global nature of this war and the resulting trauma of living under the threat of a nuclear annihilation put into stark perspective the essential precariousness of human life. It takes the basis of existential philosophy. The playwright of the absurd theatre views life existentially and expresses the senselessness of it. Most of the plays express a sense of wonder, incomprehension, and at times despair at the meaninglessness of human existence. Since they do not believe in a rational and well-meaning universe, they do not see any possibility of resolution of the problems they present either. The absurdist playwrights give artistic expression to Albert Camus' existential philosophy, illustrated in his famous essay, The Myth of Sisyphus. The theatre of the absurd does not argue about the absurdity of human condition, it merely presents it in its stark reality through the stage images. It creates a style of theatre which presented a world which cannot be logically explained and uses techniques that seem to be illogical to the theatre world. The arbitrary structure of the plays reflects the arbitrary and irrational nature of life. Structurally, in contrast to a well-made play with a beginning, middle, and an end, the plays by the absurd playwrights often start at an arbitrary point and end just as arbitrarily. There is no proper beginning, middle, and end. There is no proper conclusion. The plots often deviate from the more traditional episodic structure and seem to be cyclic, ending the same way as it began. It rejects narrative continuity and rigidity of logic. The scenery is often unrecognizable. The dialogue never seems to make any sense. Language is seen as a futile attempt to communicate. They feel that language is not adequate or capable of communicating, or in fact, communication is impossible for them. The general effect is often a nightmare or a dreamlike atmosphere in which the protagonist is overwhelmed by the chaotic or the irrational nature of his environment. The absurdist playwrights intermix farce and tragedy, the tragic and the funny elements. Samuel Beckett, Arthur Adama, Eugene Ionesco, James Renard, Harold Pinter, Edward Albee, Tom Stoppard can be said to be the primary playwrights of the absurd. Unlike the traditional theatre, which attempts to create a photographic representation of life as we see it, the theatre of the absurd aims to create a ritual-like, mythological, archetypal, allegorical vision closely related to the world of dreams. The focal point of these dreams is often man's fundamental bewilderment and confusion stemming from the fact that he has no answers to the basic existential questions like why we are alive, why we have to die, why there is injustice, why there is suffering. There is no answer to all these questions. So that is represented in the theatre of absurd. One of the most important aspects of absurd theatre is its distrust of language as a means of communication. Language is nothing more than a vehicle for conventionalized, stereotyped, meaningless exchanges. No proper communication is possible. The theatre of the absurd shows language is a very unreliable and insufficient tool of communication. Absurd drama uses conventionalized speech, slogans, technical jargons which distorts, parodies, and breaks down By ridiculing these conventionalized, stereotyped speech patterns, the theory of the absurd tries to make people aware of the possibility of going beyond everyday speech conventions and communicating more authentically. It subverts logic and relishes the unexpected and the logically impossible. The theatre of the absurd departs from realistic characters, situations, and all of the associated theatrical conventions. Time, place, and identity are ambiguous and fluid. Even basic casuality breaks down. Meaningless plot, repetitive or nonsensical dialogue, and dramatic non sequential images are often used to create dreamlike or even nightmare like moods. There is a fine line, however, between the careful and the artful use of chaos and non realistic elements and true meaningless chaos. The characters in absurdist drama are lost and floating in an incomprehensible universe. Many characters appear as automatons, stuck in routines, speaking only stock dialogues. Characters are frequently stereotypical, archetypal, or flat. The more complex characters are in crisis because the world around them is incomprehensible. Characters may find themselves trapped in a particular routine, and the plots of absurd plays feature characters in interdependent pairs, commonly either two males or a male and a female, and so on. The two characters may be roughly equal or having a begrudging interdependence, like Vladimir and Estragon in Waiting for Godot. That is one of the examples of the absurd drama. One character may be clearly dominant and may torture the passive characters, like Poso and Lucky in the same play. And about the plots, plots are frequently cyclical, generally begins where the play ended, and there is no proper beginning, middle, and end. Often there is a menacing outside force that remains a mystery. Absence, emptiness, nothingness, and unresolved mysteries are central features in absurdist plays. The theatre of the absurd has some stylistic precursors like tragic comedy, Dadaism. It's yet another cultural movement in visual art as well as in literature. It's also a protest against the barbarism of the war. Then Surrealism and the Theatre of Cruelty by Antonin Artaud. Thank you.